Welcome to another action-packed, exciting hour of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Rewatch Along Project. This is podcasting the way I want it and the way I like it. This show is a production of the Something Else Podcasting Network, and it is episode number 087 of Smoky Mountain Wrestling from September 25th, 1993, taped September 13th, 1993, at the Clintonwood Elementary School in Clintonwood, Virginia. My name is Arya, and joining me, as always, is the handsome Jimmy Valiant to my number one Paul Jones. It's Trey. Trey, how are ya?
I'm miraculously still here after you kept me waiting an hour from when we were supposed to record.
I explained this. We said 9 o'clock, but I meant 9 o'clock Central Time. And if you looked at your clock right now, it'll tell you 9:02.
Listener, listen to me. We talk every week about what time we're going to do shows or what time shows come on. And without fail, if we don't specify in particular, we when we say a time, we both always mean my time, our respective times, and we both do the math manually, okay? She is lying.
What a I can't believe you would say that. I can't believe you would call me a liar. Wow. What's next? Are you going to say that I cannot partially referee a match between Chris Candido and the Dark Secret?
I am going to impeach you as the host of this podcast.
I can't believe you even think. Do you even think about doing such a thing? You know, especially after we saw poor Jimmy Cornette, what happened to him on this show, the commissioner of the company, and after all that, you would dare try to impeach me. I had a higher hope and a higher standard for you here, Trey. Although
Well,
if I,
Dutch
Mhm.
Mantel never wanted you to be on the podcast anyway. He told me.
That asshole, great guy, but he's an asshole. Oh
Is he a
Lordy,
great guy?
I
I don't
assume
know.
so. You know, he, he's not an awful guy. We'll say that.
Give
All
him the
right.
benefit of the doubt.
So, we talked last week. Jim Cornette is the commissioner, defeating Bullet Bob Armstrong, or having Terry Funk defeat Bullet Bob Armstrong in Knoxville. And there's only one more match to go, and we're going to discuss that here. It's the loser leaves town match that they ended up having. Now, um, okay, so I made a note of something I wanted to talk to you about it, and that I didn't elaborate, so I had to think about what the hell I was asking you about. Um, so I was watching some NWA, obviously when I called you, the Jimmy Valiant to my Paul Jones. And I resaw the skit with Baby Doll and Tully Blanchard, where Tully Blanchard is picking his perfect 10 and he picks Baby Doll. Now, in 1985, the whole point of that was, it was an inside rib that we're having Tully Blanchard be with this large, gargantuan woman who, towers over him. And this is his quote unquote perfect 10. And I had this discussion a few years ago with my original co-host because whatchamacallit, in 2025 or 2022 when we had this discussion, you know, it wasn't considered, out of this world to have um to have a woman who was this large be in her corner and still or be in his corner and be considered, you know, a sex object. What were your thoughts about this little angle here?
Um, I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever seen it.
So it was like a 3 or 4 minute skit here where Tully Blanchard is being, seduced by beautiful women in expensive gowns, all over the place, and then he turns them all down for one reason or another and goes with Baby Doll.
Okay, I'll give that a look sometime.
Okay. But I mean, just general your thoughts about, you know, Tully being put with a woman who towered over him, as an inside joke in 1985, which again,
Uh, I think it's kind of funny just because like Tully's whole appeal is just what a spectacular midget asshole heel he was. So I think that I think that just enhances it.
and the funny thing is, like, we call him midget. He was like 5'8", 5'9". But yeah,
Yeah, I just like I
yeah.
don't know. 15 years ago, I heard somebody describe his style as midget asshole heel, and I just latched onto it, and I like that term.
I mean, it's a good description. Um, And it's funny because I forget who he was wrestling on the Saturday night I was watching, but whoever it was like, it was a small dude. It was, somebody who weighed closer to what Tully weighed than anything else. And he dead weighted Tully on the slingshot suplex. And I thought about Ray Traylor, who went up perfectly for it.
Yeah, he was a natural.
All right. So let's get to the intro of the show. It's with Dutch Mantel and still our Smoky Mountain Commissioner, Jim Cornette.
To Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And this is wrestling the way I want it and the way I like it. Joining me here for color commentary, the newly ordained commissioner of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, Mr. Jim Cornette. That's exactly right. And today you picked a great time to tune into Smoky Mountain Wrestling because we're going to see highlights of the match at SummerSlam between the Heavenly Bodies and Rick and Scott Steiner. We're also going to have a baby bonnet match today where the suicide blonde Chris Candido says he is going to take that bonnet off his head. And we're also, and I can't wait for this, going to have videotape of Bullet Bob Armstrong facing my secret weapon, and I can't wait for it. And Down and Dirty, I know, is going to be exciting today, Dutch. Well, we've had some controversy recently, but I'm going to be talking to Tammy Fytch, Primetime, Brian Lee, and Ron Wright today on Down and Dirty with Dutch. But right now, it's draw the man who's going to face the Beat the Champ right here, and I am going to let...
I've always wanted to do it.
I want you to draw a name, Mr. Commissioner. Mr. Commissioner will draw the name right now.
Who is going to face Robert Gibson? I'm the commissioner. I can do this. In the Beat the Champ. Hold on. Who is going to face Robert Gibson today in the Beat? Who's going to face Robert Gibson today in the Beat the Champ? Who is going to face Robert Gibson today in the Beat the Champ? The Dirty White Boy is the name that I picked to face Robert Gibson today for the Beat the Champ TV title.
Okay.
And I did it fair and square.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go to the ring right now, fans.
All right. So you had messaged me a few days ago asking if I'd watched Smoky Mountain yet, and I hadn't at that time. And I was watching it later on, and I was cackling 2 minutes in because I loved watching this thing here with Cornette picking out names for Beat the Champ, and obviously keeps picking baby faces. Um, and it took him 4 tries to get a heel.
We should speculate wildly about who the first three names he drew were.
See, I want to believe, him being a man of fairness, that, he probably picked like Ricky Morton and, Bobby Blaze and who else already had a match on the show. He picked people who had matches already on the show, and thus it would have been unfair to have them wrestle again. Like Gator McAllister.
You think he picked Gator McAllister?
I do. I think, it's pretty obvious that he picked somebody like Gator McAllister, somebody or people who already had matches on the show. And he's just being a nice, fair guy. Like, why make these guys wrestle twice?
Gator McAllister, the uncrowned Beat the Champ TV champion.
Indeed. So yeah, today we're getting highlights from SummerSlam. We're getting Candido in a baby bonnet match, and we're also going to get tape Bullet Bob versus Jim Cornette's Secret Weapon, and also Tammy Fytch, who you might recall. Tammy Fytch is the young lady who's filed a sexual discrimination lawsuit against Smoky Mountain Wrestling. She is on Down and Dirty with primetime Brian Lee and Mr. Ron Wright.
Yep. That's that's a lot. I feel like a lot happened on this show. This was a dense show.
Yes, it was. It really was. So we go to the ring for our first match. It is Bobby Blaze, U.S. Junior Heavyweight Champion, versus Robbie Eagle, singular. Um, Rob Eagle getting another match with a champion after defeating both the tag team champions. Actually, he's defeated the tag champs multiple times and also the WWA World Heavyweight Champion. You would think this poor motherfucker would get a title match at some point.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Now
I
we met.
assume this was a I assume this was a championship eliminator.
Oh yeah, I assume so. As long as Blaze is champion, poor Robbie Eagle won't be able to get a title shot. Now, we mentioned, I think it was in July when Blaze started his run here, that he did not have experience, doing enhancement matches where he was supposed to be the guy getting over. And that's what happened here because Robbie Eagle, loved the guy. He was the maestro in WCW. He was Gorgeous George III on the Independents and actually sold the gimmick to Macho Man Randy Savage, which got him the WCW job to begin with. Um, that but it was not his day to get over here, and he took way more of the match than he probably should have. But Blaze, of course, wins with the Northern Lights to play.
Yeah, it was so funny because like Cornette and Dutch first they're talking about this U.S. Junior Heavyweight title tournament that's totally a thing that happened.
Of course.
There's the bracket in Columbus, Georgia, and then the bracket in Rio de Janeiro, and then the winners met in parts unknown.
Mm-hmm.
It only went like 2.5 minutes, but it was still like Blaze having a competitive match with this job guy, and then the announcer, which is Cornette and Dutch, and they're both heel announcers, but they're just fucking burying Bobby Blaze for sucking. It was kind of hilarious.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. So after that, let's go to the announcers because they're standing by with the WWA World Heavyweight Champion, Chris Candido. It'd be good if I unmuted it.
WWA World's Heavyweight Champion, the Suicide Blonde, Chris Candido. Now, Chris, you've had some words with Bobby Blaze. Do you intend to stand by and take it, or what is your plan of action at this point?
Just to tell you, my plan of action is to take that lousy, cheap hubcap off his waist that should not be recognized by Smoky Mountain Wrestling. It's not a real championship like mine is a real championship. I'm going to take that belt at the Parade of Champions, and not because I want it. At the Parade of Champions, I'm going to beat Bobby Blaze within an inch of his life, take that belt, and throw it in the river. But then, just as importantly, right here on the show, I'm going to have a match, and I plan on getting this bonnet off my head once and for all.
Oh,
Hey, I tell you what, hold on one second. Would you people shut up for a second? I can still hear you breathing. Chris, I tell you what I'm going to do. To make sure you get a fair shake today with this thing on your head, I'm going to be the special referee. I'll be the special referee just to make sure it's fair and square down the middle. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you.
There you heard it. Jimmy Cornette, special referee today on Smoky Mountain. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Good move, Mr. Commissioner.
Well, thank you.
Good move.
Thank you very much.
Thankfully, we have Jim Cornette here to put himself in as referee because, as we've seen in the past few weeks, Candido's been getting the shaft by some faulty calls by the referee during his matches. So thankfully, the commissioner is stepping up here. So this way, we have a decisive, fair winner in Chris Candido's upcoming match.
I tried to interrupt you and I was muted so it didn't go through. How dare you? Those were perfectly valid calls by the referee.
Yes, technically, legally, it was perfectly valid. Tim Horner rolled in and elbow dropped the opponent, and then he got chased uh, outside the ring, counting out poor Chris Candido. I did note that the stipulation only says that he has to um, wear the bonnet during his matches, but of course he's wearing it before the match as well.
Did they say that?
Uh,
So do they have to wear it like all the time or just in the building? Like, did he wear it? Did he wear it through the fucking Dairy Queen drive-through?
I just assume he never took it off from week to week.
You
Yeah.
think you think that became part of it for him and Tammy?
I mean, you never know what they're into, and maybe that explains a bit of the cuckolding relationship they had.
A- As always, we do not kink shame on this podcast.
Of course not. You do you, you know?
Ab- Absolutely.
Ah, um, so I noted we got the commercial for the Big Apple Grapple, and they still have not updated the commercial. They still list the Harris's as the
I know-
Smoky Mountain Tag Team Champions.
I noticed that too.
And I thought at first that it was a new commercial. I don't know why. I just thought it was, but as soon as they started talking, I'm like, oh, nope, same exact commercial.
It was weird because when it started, I was like, "Wait, what is this? This sounds different." And then I realized that it was a Big Apple Grapple commercial, which we have seen before. I don't know, was it a different song or did we just not remember it? It's weird that we both kind of had that thought.
Possibly, possibly. Um, So from here, we get footage of Bullet Bob Armstrong versus Jim Cornette's secret weapon. Now, I had asked you a few weeks ago when they started building this up to not spoil it, to not go ahead and look to see who the mystery opponent was, because I wanted to get your reaction as it was happening. Now, in the last few weeks, you had heard them. We had Terry Funk here for a month. They mentioned Yokozuna. They mentioned all these great WWF wrestlers that it could be. And I don't know if this was the original plan. Kind of makes me think it was because we went so deliberately vague. But the opponent was the Black Ninja, which was said to be a huge letdown to the crowd.
Uh, yeah, I had no idea, so I watched the whole segment just thinking, well, maybe they're gonna do whatever they're gonna do, and then somehow they will reveal who is under the mask, and it'll be somebody of substance, and that is not what happened.
No, do you know who's under the mask?
Age Match said was under the mask.
Yeah, Larry Santo, was
So, but okay, well,
what?
not to put the cart before the horse, but there ends up being two black ninjas.
Yes,
Which one was he and who was the other one?
Larry Santo was the one who did 99% of the match. Um, now, so Bob had the sleeper on Larry Santo. Cornette tried to come into the ring and waylay Bullet Bob, but Mark Curtis stole the racket. Bob knocked out Cornette and put him in the sleeper. And while Curtis was shoving Cornette out of the ring, a second Black Ninja ran down, attacked Bullet Bob from behind, and picked up the win. Now, so yes, this means that Bullet Bob Armstrong, the man who was commissioner of this show from episode number one, he is now out permanently. And you can believe this because it's a stipulation in pro wrestling. He is out of Smoky Mountain Wrestling forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, this angle is going where I thought it was.
Yeah. Second Black Ninja, by the way, Brian Armstrong.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yep. They already have a guy with a black mask and a black bodysuit. Why not use him for the black mask, black bodysuit angle?
Are you telling me that the Black Ninja has a dark secret?
He does. Ha
How
ha.
about how about that?
I'm
By the way,
as
I know you don't watch the local promos, but I laughed They had Ricky Morton there. They didn't even bother to have Robert come for promos.
I I didn't fast forward, but I wasn't really paying attention, but I did see it was just him and Scott Armstrong. I
Yeah,
think,
they're hyping that babyface tag title match.
yeah, 'cause I think as we mentioned, Steve was not here at the taping, I'm pretty certain, or they really pussied out poor Steve Armstrong if he was.
He was not at any of the shows that weekend, so
There may
and he
have been
wasn't,
some
according to
reason
Cage
for
Match,
that.
he wasn't anywhere else that weekend either. So I don't know.
Poor son of a bitch. Um, all right, so the commissioner, who is also the color commentator of this show, kicked Bullet Bob out. So you can imagine he has something to say. Let's go to Corny at the desk because yeah, it's gonna be one of those shows where we send it to Cornette 37 times. Let's go to that right now.
They can see not only did Terry Funk win the commissionership of Smoky Mountain Wrestling for me by beating Bob Armstrong, but then my secret weapon eliminated Bob Armstrong completely from Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Everybody thought when they saw that secret weapon, they said, Jim Cornette's crazy. But I proved that I was crazy like a fox. I know you didn't, Dutch, because you got faith in me. And now Bullet Bob Armstrong is back at the Jiffy Lube in Marietta, back at the Exxon station on the corner in some part of Jerkwater, Georgia, with his sons pumping gas and lubing cars and sweeping out people's toilets and doing manual labor like that instead of bothering people in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. He's gone, and he's gone for good, and I can't wait to see the look on all these redneck morons' faces around the area when they realize that their hero, their savior, their idol, the great Bullet Bob Armstrong, ain't coming back because Jim Cornette eliminated him from the picture. Right, Dutch?
Absolutely. Don't go away, fans. We'll be right back with more of us because we can come back,
Yeah,
right?
we can come back
Bob
anytime
K.
we want to, but he can't.
I don't know what it was about Dutch in this promo. Just he looked, I don't know if drunk is the right word, but he definitely looked a little more animated than usual.
Uh, well, I don't know. Maybe he was drunk.
Possibly.
Maybe he's got a, maybe he's got a flask in that robe.
So yeah, Cornette's happy. He's the commissioner. Bullet Bob is gone. And what can you do? So from here they showed us clips from SummerSlam, 7 full minutes of the Steiner Brothers Heavenly Bodies match. And now you had just watched SummerSlam recently, correct?
Yes,
All right. So what were your thoughts on this match when you saw it?
really good. Fucking bodies did exactly what they were there to do, which was bump around like lunatics. Like to hear Cornette tell the story, he pretty much like because the Midnights had worked with the Steiners in WCW and 89, 90, whatever. And Cornette's like, yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same kind of team. We're gonna fucking shine you up and make you look great. And they did. The Steiners looked like absolute beast, and it's a shame that they were gonna just take the belts off of them 2 weeks later anyway.
Yeah. Now, um, it's funny because when I was watching this, I had a thought like because I used to watch Impact every single week. Like nowadays, if I can, I'll turn it on, but it's not the absolute necessity that it used to be anyway. But watching this going from the Smoky Mountain show being taped in a high school gym in front of a couple hundred people to going to SummerSlam at the Palace of Auburn Hills in front of like I think it was like 15,000 people. It was night and fucking day. It really like, you know, I never really cared, one way or the other about Smoky Mountain production, but on the same show when I'm watching WWF production, it's like, holy crap, like this is a giant, huge fucking difference here. Um, and so when I was watching, when Jordan Grace did the Royal Rumble earlier this year, TNA got to air footage of it on the show, and I'd never really had an issue with TNA's production, uh, but it was like this is an absurdly crazy difference between the two.
I don't really think about stuff like that much. I watch like I don't know. I guess I watch so much wrestling that's in so many different kinds of buildings that it's just
Hmm.
it barely registers a lot of the time.
Hmm. That's funny. I remember as a kid, like I knew the Steiners were going to win because they were in Detroit. But as a kid, I wanted the Heavenly Bodies to win just because when I was a kid, I always wanted the people who had never been champion before to win.
Yeah, well, everybody likes to see a title change. But they interviewed the Steiners' mom and sister, and the sister accidentally said Rick's real name.
Robbie.
Yeah.
Um, is okay. So I think it was actually after the next segment. Actually, yeah. So let's go to the Jim Cornette promo here. It's a two-parter. We're gonna play the first part, and then there's a little break, then come back for the last part. Let's go to Corny and the Heavenly Bodies.
What do you got to say about it now?
How did you cheat us? Let me count the ways. First of all, they had a hometown advantage, Detroit, Michigan. Oh, everybody knows the Steiners are from Detroit. Everybody knows the people in Michigan are mentally defective, just like these idiots here. Secondly, they had a referee from Detroit who was obviously swayed by the fact that the Steiners were wearing the colors of Michigan, one of which is yellow. Then they had 20,000 fans there screaming their lungs out so that the boys couldn't hear my signals. And finally, watch that last piece of that match. Both Steiners made the cover to pin Jimmy Del Rey, and the referee counted it anyway. But we did not lay back. We didn't take it. We didn't leave it sit there. No. We jumped in on another WWF TV taping, and we gave the Steiner brothers a little taste of what the Heavenly Bodies can do, and I want you to see that piece of videotape.
All right. So Cornette's not. I mean, he's lying, but he's not lying. He's like the crowd is so loud that Jimmy and Tom couldn't even hear his signals, which I mean, technically, hey, they were behind the hometown baby faces, which is never a bad thing. And that the referee basically Scott does the Frankensteiner and is kind of straddled over, I think it was Jimmy. Um, but you're supposed to Rick was supposed to make the cover. But the referee counted one with Scott still on top, and then counted two and three with Rick on top.
Well, yeah, that's were they both on top for the one count? No.
I, I
Or
don't
was
think
it
they were. I don't think they were both on top. I think like Rick was diving in while Scott was straddling Jimmy's face. Yeah.
well, that is a miscarriage of justice.
Yes, it is. Jimmy did get to break out the poon salt, by the way, on WWF television. So good for
Probably
him.
not the Probably not the only time that Jimmy Del Rey broke out in something.
At the same show, right? So they re-aired that angle that they aired last week where the Steiners had beaten the head shrinkers and then got attacked by the Heavenly Bodies. And I looked this match, and I'm pretty sure the angle, but I can't find the videotape to confirm this or not, was on Bloopers, Bleeps, and Body Slams, the 1993
Oh.
version of that tape. They
Oh.
also, yeah, they also did a tape with the exact same name in 1985. So it's
I just watched the Raw that had the Quebecers title change.
hmm
And it's like, I don't know. I thought it made the Steiners look pretty dumb. Like it wasn't even really like a clever DQ. It was just I think what was it? I don't have my notes in
I
front of me.
think
I
I
mean
think it was Scott got the hockey stick from Johnny Polo
yeah,
and
that's it.
waylaid. Yeah.
Yeah. It just Jock, Johnny Polo gave Jock the hockey stick, and Jock went after Scott with it, and Scott just took it away and beat him with it in front of the referee. So the
Yep.
title change due to stupid babyface.
Yep. Scott is a hothead, you know. But anyway, the actual reason why they did this angle was it was so the Heavenly Bodies could steal the belts, and then the Steiners would come out a couple times later on the show without the belts, the tape matches that would air after they already lost them.
Pretty clever.
Yes. All right, so let's go to the second half of the Jim Cornette Heavenly Bodies promo, and go from there. Again, unmute it.
Down flat of their faces in the ring. They were beaten up, broken, and disgusted, and now they say they're coming down to Smoky Mountain Wrestling at the Parade of Champions to get some revenge. Well, as you saw in the last little piece of that videotape, we took their belts. Of course, the WWF caught us at the back door, made us hand them over, said they'd call the cops because we stole something. Yeah, that's real selective thinking about stealing things. But then the very next match that the Steiner brothers wrestled, they lost the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team title because we took so much out of them, because the Heavenly Bodies beat them up so bad. They had their minds on the Heavenly Bodies. They couldn't think about anything else. They lost their belts. They blame us. And now they're coming down to Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Well, it's a Parade of Champions in October. Steiner brothers, you're going to find out that anything can happen in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. You're not going to be nam-beat and pam-beat and coddled like you are up there in the bright lights in the big city. It's rough down here. And we know that all the fans are universally all across the country behind you. Whether it be Michigan or Tennessee or anywhere else, we realize that. But, brother, I got news for you. We don't care what the fans think and never have. So you come on down to Smoky Mountain Wrestling. The only thing that I'm upset about, like I've said before, is that mangy, flea-infested, disease-ridden pit bull Arnold that you're planning on bringing to the ring. But I guarantee you this, Steiner brothers, one of these guys is going to take that pit bull and defang it once and for all at the Parade of Champions. It's going to take place, Dutch.
Okay, Steiners, when you step in here, you're going to step into a hornet's nest. We'll be right back, fans. Don't go away. They'll learn, Jimmy. They'll learn.
Gentle rash.
All right. I gotta say, like, and I'm gonna miss this a little bit. One of the things I am liking about this Dutch Jim Cornette thing is watching them like close promos, ship it to commercial, but then they're making little comments afterwards about it.
Yeah. So the Steiners want revenge on the Heavenly Bodies. So they have
Yes.
like, I don't know, 3 or 4 matches scheduled during the Parade of Champions. And that's
Yes.
because once the Steiners get revenge, they're going to want to get more revenge.
Yes. Apparently that is a thing with baby faces. When you get revenge, you want more revenge.
Revenge is a dish best served delicious, apparently.
And repetitive. Um, all right. So then we have a match here. Oh boy. I don't know, like, you know, when you think about the greatest all-time matches, there's Flair Steamboat, Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada, some of like all-time fucking classics. Why doesn't Chris Candido versus The Dark Secret get remembered in such a manner?
Because Triple H and Shawn Michaels did pretty much the same match on Raw at the end of 1997, and clearly
An
it was out of
homage.
it was out of spite for Candido because you know they hated Candido.
True. See, I wanted to believe that they were maturing and they were doing an homage more than anything else.
No, they did a more famous version of the same thing just to take that away from Chris.
Well, I also thought possibly because Tim Horner joined the commentary desk for this one, which is just fucking
It's,
awful.
it's
You
Is that a
know,
horrible thought? What if Tim Horner joined DX?
can you imagine how many times it would take for him to say, "Let's get ready to suck it"?
Tim Horner is used to being told that things suck, so
Maybe he could have been in the oddities instead.
in the oddities. That's you know who would have been good in the oddities? Gator McAllister.
Yes. Unfortunately, we're not at Gator McAllister's match yet. Um, but Horner called this match a travesty, and I'm like, well, anytime Horner's behind a microphone is a travesty. But I think he was referring to the fact that this was a fake match. Um,
A
you know,
fake match,
yes, the
as opposed to the other ones, which are real matches.
yes, they were quote unquote going through the motions. Um, Candido was giving a turnbuckle smash to Dark Secret as they go around the ring. And I think he won with he won with a clothesline. And clothesline being a very, a liberal definition of what occurred here. Um,
So,
I, I, mhm.
why did the Dark Secret go along with this?
I think it's obvious that, Chris Candido and or the commissioner, um, made strong, arguments to Dark Secret to help him go along with this, even though, this was his chance to wrestle the world heavyweight champion in a match, and that just did not come around every day. But yeah,
Probably
honest,
bribed him with weed money.
probably. It's funny when you think about it, you know, BG James, Road Dogg, he did not get a whole lot of matches with world champions over the years. Because
Well,
I think he
there's a
wrestled.
reason.
Yeah, I think he wrestled The Rock on an episode of Raw when The Rock was champion in like 1998. And I mean, I'm, Cindy and I are 7 months into TNA at this point, and he feuded with Jeff Jarrett before Jeff Jarrett got the world title. And so I don't even think he gets a match with the TNA world champion.
Okay, so I've looked ahead into your future, and BG James is in an NWA World Title match in July 2004.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. So, all right. So long after we forget that Trey and I discussed this, when we're finally getting to the end of these fucking TNA weekly pay-per-views next year, BG James is going to get a world title match. But
Hmm.
yeah, BG, they say world title matches, are few and far between. Maybe this is why. Maybe every time the championship committee discussed giving BG a world title match, they saw his match here on Smoky Mountain, wrestling the WWA World Heavyweight Champion.
You know what? I bet you're right.
Yeah. Poor BG. Poor
But they
BG.
did. How would they know? How would they know that he had a dark secret?
Well, I mean, it's possible that when Brian Armstrong is you know, arguing why he should be getting jobs to the promoters, and they're like, well, where have you worked before? He's like, well, I was in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. They're like, you were in for one promo and one match. And he was like, oh no, I was the Dark Secret. They're like, oh, okay. And they pull it up and like, oh wait, this was you? What the fuck, dude?
But he won. He won the one match as Brian Armstrong, and he's lost every match as the Dark Secret.
Yes, but if he had just said he was only in Smoky Mountain for that one Brian Armstrong match, he may have gotten a lot more world title matches because people would have seen, hey, he won his one match and he was serious about his business.
I guess we'll never know. There's an alternate universe where Road Dogg is a six-time world champion.
Yes, he got all those chances that Billy Gunn got when they're like, oh, look how tall Billy Gunn is. He should get a singles push.
You
So.
should
Mhm.
when you watch like Attitude Era Raws, when you play the Attitude Era Raw drinking game, take a shot every time Jim Ross calls Billy Gunn the greatest natural athlete in the WWF, or what was it he said? Was that it?
Yeah, so something like that, by the guy that lost his job as an agent for failing a steroid test. I got to say, you really got to be pumping yourself full of steroids when you're an agent and getting fired for it. Not ever
Yeah.
wanting to insinuate that daddy ass is not clean or anything.
I hope his
Um,
ass is clean.
so after a match that, I mean, I think this was the original match that broke the Dave Meltzer 6-star scale. I think this had to be at least 6 3/4 stars. After that match, the commissioner, Chris Candido, and Tim Horner are with Dutch Mantel for a promo. And this is where I was starting to say to myself, okay, we talked about this last week. Cornette was in like 12 promos, and now we're getting to the point this week where it's like, okay, this is starting to get a little fucking old here. Um, but hey, just in time, something happens. Let's go to that right now.
Let me say, that was the toughest wrestling match of Chris Candido's career, but he finally got that bonnet off his head. If you touch me, I'll fine you $50,000.
I told you,
I'd gladly pay the $50,000.
Whoa! No, I told him, Mr. Commissioner.
That was a legitimate match. There wasn't nothing wrong with it, and Chris Candido won, and he got that baby bonnet off his head.
Obviously set it up, and you were probably behind it.
Wait a minute.
What are you doing here?
Let me interrupt just a moment. Dutch, I'm here on behalf of the board of directors of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. They say that the television tapings can't continue like this, and I have some special correspondence here for Mr. Jim Cornette.
You've been promoted. Have I been promoted? How can you get any higher than commissioner? Have I been president, maybe? Hold on, let's see here. Dutch, help me read this, if you will.
We'll read this.
Board of directors, Jim Cornette. Impeached! How can they impeach me? They can't.
No!
I'm the boss.
You can't be impeached.
Boss. I'm the boss.
No! 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 Oh, hey, Judge, shut up, leave it alone. We'll be right back. We got to check this out. Jimmy, that letter say anything about me?
All right. So, as we spoke at the beginning of the show, Jim Cornette has been impeached as commissioner. Now, the funny thing is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I fucking guffawed at impeached.
Yes. He didn't get removed as commissioner, he didn't get fired as commissioner. He got impeached.
The board of directors? How many? So who's the board of directors? We decided Sandy
No.
Scott, Mark Curtis, and Mark Lawrence.
No, this wasn't what we decided. In Smoky Mountain Canon, the board of directors are the commissioner, Sandy Scott, and Mark Curtis.
Oh, so they didn't even. What? I guess we know who voted how.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 3-person board, and in theory, Jim Cornette voted against impeachment. Although I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that they did not ask him for his vote, and I think that that could lead to some lawsuits. I think Mama Cornette here needs to contact a lawyer.
So does the board of directors have quorum if only 2 members are present?
Possibly, we would have to look at the rules for the Smoky Mountain Board of Directors that had to be laid down when they originally were formed. Because I mean, I guess it makes sense because Bullet Bob was in Japan that time, where Pam Lawson signed to allow Smoky Mountain to pay for Kevin Sullivan's therapy for months.
This impeachment could very well be as invalid as that Steiner brothers went over the heavenly bodies.
Yeah. By the way, I forgot to mention during the Candido match, after he wins, he rips off the bonnet and throws it into the front row. And it was like John Cena a one night stand because they just took it like they kind of had a fight over it and then threw it right back into the ring.
If Candido wins, we riot.
Yes. Let me know this is probably the only time that you'll ever hear someone compare Chris Candido to John Cena.
Yeah.
Also, like we mentioned, Chris Candido is amazing at little things. When Chris Candido is there with Jim Cornette after this match, he's playing the I'm blown up, exhausted. I just had, the match of the year, kind of thing afterwards. and I was fucking marking out for that, during this Cornette promo.
Oh yeah, man, Chris Candido, very underrated talent in the history of wrestling. Like, dude,
Mhm.
how old would he be today?
Wasn't he
Well,
34 when he died? So I mean, 54, 55.
he would have been having matches like into the 2010s at least.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I I think he would have been in TNA for a long time, especially if he had, because they like by all accounts he had gotten his shit together when he passed away, and
I re
that's Mhm.
I gotta tell you right now, I am imagining a Chris Candido run in like 8 aughts Ring of Honor, and it's a beautiful image.
He would have been he would be 52 years old right now because he was only 33 when he
As he
passed
was
away.
such a good worker, like if he still wanted to be working, like he could still be doing like at least like indie matches or fucking like a
I,
Jeff Jarrett match. Like Jeff
I
Jarrett is
was
still doing matches and not beating himself up. Like he's fighting, but he's not taking like horrible bumps or anything.
I was gonna say I guarantee you, we have Jeff Jarrett on AEW, we have PCO on Impact. I guarantee Chris Candido would be on a major national television show right now. Maybe even just NXT, you know, teaching the young guys to work. I bet he would have been fucking great at that.
Fucking Chris Candido would be on Collision.
I mean, I'm not saying he couldn't have been on Collision or Dynamite, but I'm just thinking of you know, what might have probably happened here. But
Chris always wanted to be on the cutting edge of the business.
very, very true. And he was the only person that made the Naturals interesting. Because he was the Naturals manager for like a month
Yeah.
there. And it's funny because like
Yeah.
I I was eh, I was a Smart fan, but in my early days of being a Smart fan, when he went to TNA, and when he showed up in TNA, I was like, ugh, I don't want to fucking see this guy because, you know, at this point, like the last 5, 6 years of Chris Candido, he was fired from the WWF. He was fired from ECW. He was fired from WCW, all for similar issues. And so and you have to really be fucked up to get fired from WCW or well, fired from WCW too, but fired from ECW for drug use. You know.
Yeah, I had only ever seen him in that WCW run in 2000, and then other I read about him like I think he popped up in like XPW, and he had a little bit of a New Japan run in maybe 2002 2003,
Hmm.
and then he showed. Didn't he have? Wasn't he the one who was having the hardcore match with Terry Funk when Terry threatened to kick the horse's ass for trying to kick him?
Well, the horse didn't try to kick Terry. The horse did kick Terry. But
Oh,
yes,
where did it kick him?
in the chest. He bu
Oh, yeah.
he bucked Funk,
Yeah.
and
He threatened to kick the horse's
I'll
ass.
I'll kick your fucking ass, horse.
Terry Funk is the greatest man alive.
Oh my God.
Well, Terry
Te-
Funk isn't alive anymore. It makes me very
yeah,
sad.
Terry Funk did not like, and we talked about this, at least once on a recent show. Terry Funk did not get the love that he should have gotten as, one of, the all-time greats. Like he's remembered as an all-time great, but like he'd never get the respect he deserved as like one of the best, you
Here's the
know.
thing. Whoever you think is the greatest of all time, there's like a very high probability that they think Terry Funk is the greatest of all time.
Yeah. I remember Lance Storm when everyone was doing a Wrestler of the Millennium thing in the year 2000, and this was before Lance was in WCW and worked with Funk. He said the Wrestler of the Millennium was Terry Funk.
Man, I would. Didn't Lance say that he has like a videotape of the match they had in Amarillo?
He
Or did
did,
I make that
yes.
up?
Uh,
Oh, I wish I could see that. I bet that was amazing.
Oh yeah. I mean, just for the crowd reaction, I'd want to see it.
Oh, I bet that. God, Lance fucking digitized that shit and post it online. Come on.
I know. Well, I mean, I don't know because I'm not sitting here, moving Lance's stuff from VHS to DVD, but I'm pretty sure he put all of his VHS tapes on the DVD, especially when he was running his school, because they had access to all of his tapes and stuff. Let,
Let's
let's get
start a
let's get Tyler
let's
Breeze
start
on the
a
show and ask him.
yeah. Let's start a GoFundMe to I'll fly to Calgary and I'll go to Lance's house and I'll rip the DVD.
Or let's get my friend Mary Kate, who's the person that found the Bret Hart Tom McGee match. Let's get her to try to find the Lance Storm Terry Funk match.
There you go.
Um, so after the 30-second commercial break that we managed to talk for 5 minutes, in between, we go back because there's not enough talking on this show. We go back to Down and Dirty with Dutch, who's with Tammy Fytch, Primetime Brian Lee, and Mr. Ron Wright. And we're first going to have a promo by Sensational Sherri. And I'm telling you this in advance. This promo, not with Sherri, but the other three, this promo hit me right in the feelings. Let's
Yeah.
let, let,
Yeah.
yeah, let's go to that now.
Welcome to Down and Dirty with Dutch. I'm Dutch Mantell, and you're not. I'm still here right now, but I don't know for how long. But right now, before I get my special guest back here, let's take his special comments. Let's hear some special comments from Sensational Sherri Martel.
You know Tammy Fytch, they say you went to Wellesley College, and they say that you've been known to interfere a little bit with Mr. Brian Lee and where his matches are concerned, saying that you give him some type of glove. Well, I myself have been known to wear a few gloves, Tammy. And you know what happens when the 4th of July comes about and New Year's come about all in one night? Well, that's what's going to happen when I see you at the Parade of Champions, Tammy Fytch, because once I show you what wrestling's all about, the only damn thing you're going to want to do is go back to your little books and putting on your little bras, putting on your little stuff all over your derriere, strutting it around the ring, because when I get finished with you, you're not going to have anything left to strut. You're not going to bother anybody in Smoky Mountain Wrestling anymore, and I can go back to New Orleans again.
Okay, I got my special guest out here now. You heard what Sensational Sherri Martel says. I'm nervous right now. Your comments right now.
You know, Sensational Sherri is nothing but an ex-convict reform school girl. Tracy Smothers has less hair on his legs than Sherri does. She's like a gorilla. She's not a lady. She's a man. She's a truck driver. And I hate Tracy Smothers. I hope he gets in an accident and he gets decapitated and his head rolls down the road and a truck flattens it out.
I'll tell you what, baby. Don't worry about an accident, because next time Tracy Smothers steps in the ring with me, it's going to be the biggest accident of his life.
Okay, but I know the fans, what they want to know, how is Ron Wright? Ron, how are you?
Well, I'm a feeling.
Ron is just fine. Can't you tell? He looks healthy. He's getting his medication on time. And he's just happy, aren't you, Tiger?
Yeah, but I wonder how Dirty White Boy is. I hadn't seen him in a while.
Don't worry about Dirty White Boy. He's doing fine. Come on. It's time to go read now.
Okay, fans, there we heard it from Tammy Fytch, Primetime Brian Lee, and Ron Wright. Don't go away. I'll be right back, I hope.
All right, so I forget if it's this promo or a similar promo coming up, but Ron Wright asking where the white boy is, that really just that I don't know why, but the first time I saw that, that made me cry.
It was so sincere.
Yeah. Like, this dickhead heel, with Dirty White Boy who, has been a dickhead since the day we saw him, they're they have a bond. And now they're separated and they both just want to see each other. They both just want to hang out and talk to each other. And for whatever reason, Primetime Brian Lee and Tammy Witch with a capital B is just not allowing it.
Now look, I know that Sherri Martel had some issues, and she certainly sounds like she was having them right around this time.
Oh my God.
But I damn sure believed that she is gonna rip Little Miss Witch with a capital B apart.
What? I wrote this down because I guess I didn't really pay attention to it the first time I heard it. She said that Tammy put stuff on her ass. She put
Yes,
stuff on her derriere. And then
yes, that's
what the hell is she talking about saying that now she can go back to New Orleans?
well,
Was she kicked out of New Orleans until she beats up a little blonde girl?
well, people in New Orleans fucking hate Tammy Sitch. They hate blonde Wellesley College girls.
Well, I thought that was the entire South.
Yeah, you're right.
So, yeah, I mentioned this, and I can you see why I love this primetime Brian Lee Dirty White Boy feud and why I think it's the best feud in Smoky Mountain history, at least my favorite feud in Smoky Mountain history?
I'm starting to.
Yeah. And my favorite moment in Smoky Mountain history is coming up. I promise. I've been talking about this for months now. This is coming up.
By the way, goddamn Tammy wishing like that's some gnarly shit you're wishing on Tracy Smothers, wishing for his head to be ripped off and run over and flattened. Damn, girl.
Yeah. Forgotten in all this is that part of the promo too. Like there is so much to unpack in 2 minutes and 19 seconds there. You know, I think I think they saw the sensational Sherri promo beforehand. And were like, okay, we gotta step this one up here. What can we come up with that's even more outlandish than, Tammy putting stuff on her ass?
Yeah, we said this was a dense show. This was a very dense segment.
Yes. All right. After commercial break, Les Thatcher, of all people, is here and he is interviewing Tracy Smothers. Let's go to Les now.
I'm Les Thatcher, and I'm going to be here for a while. How long, I don't know either. Dutch Mantel will be joining me in just a moment. But with me right now, that wild-eyed Southern boy, Tracy Smothers. And Tracy, for that big parade of champions, like you've got a fail-safe in Sensational Sherri.
That's exactly right. You know something, Les? I saw all that bunch out there, all that riff-raff last week. Looked like they was pretty tongue-tied to me. Didn't know which one was going to grab the mic. They was out here a while ago. They didn't sound too much better. You know why? Because Prime Time and Tammy Fytch, you're real worried because I got Sensational Sherri Martel. That's right. All these people know her. She's known worldwide. She wrote the book on dirty deeds. And Tammy Fytch, you come out here and you talk about these Southern girls. Well, these little Southern girls got more class in their pinky than you've got in your whole stinking body. Now, I know Sherri's going to take care of Tammy Fytch. And Brian, I taught you everything you know, but I didn't teach you everything I know. And as for you, dirty white boy, I don't give 2 cents about your troubles or Ron Wright's troubles or the whole lot of you. All I'm concerned with is getting the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Championship back where it belongs, and that's around my waist.
Tracy, good luck to you. You've heard from Tracy Smothers. Let's throw it to the ring and ready for our next match.
All right. So I think it's really interesting that in addition to not doing the normal Tracy Smothers, prima donna Brian Lee, Tammy Fytch with a capital B promo, and he didn't really go off on Dirty White Boy. Like he said, White Boy, he doesn't care about what's going on with him and Mr. Ron Wright, but he didn't. That was it, and I think that's really
Yeah,
telling.
I just kind of like I was like, oh yeah, they're a part of the same angle still. Like I
Yeah,
had kind of moved them apart in my. I don't know. I don't know.
and,
It feels weird that Brian Lee is still feuding with Tracy Smothers, I guess.
and I honestly, I don't know. Like I know what happens next, and I mean, I think you can obviously tell what happens next with primetime Brian Lee. I don't know what happens next with Tracy Smothers. Like
Yeah.
I so at least as we're currently sitting here, I'm going to be a little surprised because I'm running down the heels in the company. I'm pretty sure he's not feuding with Candido. Um, and Prince Karis, spoiler, Prince Karis is on his way in to feud with Horner, which tells you
Oh
everything you need to
God.
know there.
Oh
Yeah.
God. I didn't know that part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh.
He's feuding with fucking Tim Horner. Oh,
Well, I got a bad feeling for Tracy because he's going back to Japan for the tag league in November, December. So got a
uh,
bad feeling he might get injured again here in a couple of months.
so he may not make it to Thanksgiving Thunder, is what you're saying.
I don't think he's going to.
Oh, damn, poor Tracy. Um, Now, and that might explain why we're going to get an angle coming up here, because we need a new baby face. But by the way, and I forget if it was during the Big Apple Grapple or a different house show they plugged, but they mentioned White Boy versus Tim Horner in a number one contenders match that never got
Yeah.
brought up again. And
Yeah. No.
yeah, so there you go. I think that might be why the Big Apple Grapple seemed like a new commercial because they mentioned,
Oh.
White Boy versus Horner.
Maybe
But
that's it.
yeah. All right. So then we get the Harrises, the former tag team champions, against Gator McAllister and Jason West. And I wrote, oh fuck, the Harrises get disqualified for kicking too much ass. I was wrong. I was
You
wrong.
they didn't get disqualified against Gator McCluskey here.
No, Gator McCluskey, um, I on the first episode of Smoky Mountain, uh, whatchamacallit, Bob Caudle calls Hector Guerrero Hector Gomez, and I thought about that here when one of the first things out of his mouth is to call our favorite jobber Gator McCluskey.
Okay, this is where if we didn't know that Gator McAllister was trained by Dutch Mantel, we would have known here because it Dutch immediately corrects him. That's Gator McAllister, and he's from Marsh Island, Louisiana.
Yes. Well, I think they actually said where he was from during the intro, the Marshawn,
Yeah,
Louisiana.
yeah, I know they did. Yeah, I know they did last week. They probably did. I don't know, but
And
yeah, I did note that the Bruise Brothers were more subdued. They
yes.
didn't like hit the ring and immediately start kicking ass, and then they actually won instead of kicking so much ass they get disqualified.
Yeah, and they had nobody in their corner. No Jim Cornette, no Kevin
Yeah,
Sullivan.
no. Wait,
Um,
Bob Caudle, it is noted, is on vacation in Europe, but he has been rehired by Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
yes, and he'll be back in a few weeks, which I
And
think,
by the way,
uh,
Dutch has just done a 180, saying he
yes,
never liked working with that Jim Cornette in the first place.
yes, and I forget it was here or during the main event, but he says to Les if he talks to Bob, tell him he said hi. Uh,
I think
I don't.
Bob's having a good time in Europe.
Oh, I bet he is. I wonder if that North Carolina senator he worked for, the Republican senators in Europe with him.
That
Um,
he's in Belgium.
yes. Maybe he's scouting places for future WWF European champion D'Lo Brown to vacation in.
Oh, I thought you were going to say swirling for locations for Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and we're gonna get Brian Lee against the Dirty White Boy in Antwerp, Belgium
We're expanding
for
the
the
territory.
for the Smoky Mountain Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, Lordy, Lordy. No, that's when the WWA World Title goes worldwide.
Oh
But
yeah, well,
by the way, I know the promo he did absolutely fucking sucked, and we mocked him for it. I kind of miss Dennis Coralluzzo. I wish he would have done a second promo. Oh,
yes.
by the way, I did forget to mention this part. I knew Cornette doesn't make it through these TV tapings. I thought he didn't get fired until next week.
Yeah, I had no idea where this was going. So I was completely out of left field when they said when he said he was impeached, and the funniest fucking thing.
Yeah. I just love, by the way, that, I mean, we know who the board of directors are. Were they just backstage and had an impromptu meeting, and then, like, I'm assuming Sandy Scott handles the paperwork. Like, Sandy Scott had to run to his typewriter and quickly type out that statement. That he then had Les Thatcher, who just happened to be standing backstage. He had Les Thatcher run out and read it off,
Why was Les Thatcher there? He lives in where does he live? Like Cincinnati?
something like that. Yeah. Um, All right. So the Heresies actually talk after this match for some reason. Let's go to
Oh,
Les with Ron or Don and Don or Ron.
Brothers and guys, you look like you were taking care of business. You were right on top of your game tonight.
It's like this. Me and my brother are the #1 tag team in professional wrestling today. Jim Cornette, you said you were unhappy with us. You didn't like the way we were conducting ourselves in the ring. Well, maybe we just took care of business, and we should be the ones in line for the Rock and Roll Express for them titles again. We the best, and we're here to prove it to you, Jimmy. Top of the line right here. We got a point to prove. Everybody gets in that ring. We gonna smash them and pin them 1, 2, 3, cause can't nobody do it like us. We the baddest things run. And like brother said, we slipped up just a little bit. But by God now, everyone who steps in that ring with us, we gonna make a point with you. We gonna use you as a toy. We're gonna beat you worse than you've seen us beat anybody since we've been here in Smoky Mountain. Because Jim Cornette, we're here to prove to you we're still the best, baby.
Fired up Bruise Brothers will be back with Beat the Champ right after this.
You know what's funny? And who'd have thought I'd learned something by watching TNA? But watching TNA for the past 7 months, I can tell you which heresy was which during that promo.
really?
Yes. Ron was the one that opened and closed the promo, and Don was the one in the middle.
So what's the secret?
Ron, that's just the way Ron cuts promos. He's a lot more
Oh,
yelly than Don.
okay.
Yeah. Um, and they won a title match. Um,
Is that what
yeah,
they said? They're not very articulate, neither of them.
yeah, and it's funny because we mentioned this last week. The Harris's are clean shaven. And personally, I'm surprised that the Harris's did not grow in a full beard in between the first taping and the second taping. But yeah, it's just weird seeing them without a beard. Actually, I think when Vince Russo brought them in as creative control, they were bald and they were clean shaven. And then later on they grew
Yes.
in goatees or whatever.
That was, I think the first WCW show that I ever watched was the episode of Thunder where Creative Control lost the tag titles to Goldberg and Bret Hart.
Yes, one of the all-time great tag team champions, who then immediately lost the belts to Hall and Nash.
Yeah.
Um, and then that was right before they redid the NWO Black and Silver, which I'll be honest, I was more sad that didn't work out just because I like Black and Silver. I thought that was kind of a kick-ass, take on it.
I did, and it was funny. Like again, this I had just started watching wrestling, so this was the first version of the NWO that I ever saw.
Yeah.
Was Black and Silver.
And it's funny because, like, I remember as a fan, like, yeah, the NWO just died. Like, I'm sure you've gone back and rewatched it, but the NWO just ended. Like, there was no angle, there was no storyline. Hogan was injured, Hall was having his thing, and everyone just kind of went off and did their own thing and just stopped being an NWO. And then in December, 6, 7 months later was when they brought it back. I was like, I was a little excited for it, especially with, Bret Hart, Jeff Jarrett, and the Outsiders. That was a good foursome, I thought. And
Yeah,
then Bret got
yeah,
injured, Nash got injured, Steiner got suspended, Hall got fired, and the NWO was Jeff Jarrett and the Harrises.
yeah. That was
That
yeah.
that that,
So
that is not the best version of the NWO of all time, is what we're saying.
so I guess this is the point in the Harris's careers that they realize that they have to win the matches.
I I think this might be the start of a babyface turn.
I
I say it half jokingly, but I really think they're turning babyface.
I think this is the first TV match that they've won other than the match where they beat the Rock and Roll Express for the tag title.
Yeah, I I believe you're right. I'm pretty sure because, like we said, every other fucking match they had, they got disqualified for kicking too much ass, and which is, one of those things, and I mention this every week. They did the exact same thing with Kevin Sullivan, but Kevin Sullivan won one match on TV. So this is their homage, I guess, to Kevin Sullivan. They won one match on TV, I guess.
I was actually disappointed because I thought my guy Gator McAllister was about to get a win.
I know. I was so happy for Gator McCluskey, and then he does the job to a double big boot.
I need to get on the Steam shop and see if anybody on Fire Pro has made Gator McAllister.
Fingers crossed. Tap on wood. Um, so typically what happens with Smoky Mountain, they do the main event match, they then go to the heel local promos and come back for the show closing promo. Except every so often, like this week, they do the heel local promos before the main event, which is a tip off that they're going to do some big angle or something after the main event. And that's how the show closes. That's
Yeah.
not quite what happened here. Um, but
Yeah.
it was beat the champ TV title Robert Gibson's lazy eye holder Robert Gibson versus Dirty White Boy, and White Boy tried to follow the code of honor before the match began. He stuck out his hand for Robert Gibson to shake, and Robert Gibson did not shake it. Plus, Plus, after he didn't shake it, White Boy didn't just immediately attack him, as a dickhead heel. He pulled back and they went and started the match. Um, I
Yeah.
so Dutch was talking about the upcoming Rock and Roll Armstrong's tag title match and said there's more than meets the eye. And I just laughed because, Robert Gibson and everything. Um,
Dutch says that Robert stole the belt from Jimmy Del Rey last week. What
mhm,
belt?
exactly. He stole the lazy eye.
He
Now,
stole the lazy eye.
do you think Robert Gibson and Shawn Michaels were doing the same drugs?
I bet there's some overlap there.
Yep. I bet Robert Gibson and Shawn they should get together for NXT because between the two of them, they have two good eyes.
Yeah.
Um, by the way,
Uh,
this match, I really wasn't expecting what happened to happen, but the Heavenly Bodies run down and attack Gibson while Jim Cornette distracts the referee. White Boy gets the pin, and the Dirty White Boy is a three-time Smoky Mountain Beat the Champ TV champion.
no, two. He was the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, I know, but he was a two-time TV champion as well before this. He retired as TV champion, if you remember. He
Yeah,
took
the
on
only time he was TV champion.
No, he was TV champion before because he lost to Bobby Blaze.
Yeah, no, it was they were both of their names were drawn after Brian Lee retired.
Yeah, yeah, but oh,
He
was
wasn't
that?
the champion.
Oh, then yeah, I guess then he wasn't a two-time champion before. And okay, so never mind. And
It
I'll
is
be
very it is very important for us to specify to the listener how many times the Dirty White Boy was Beat the Champ TV champion.
And I'll be honest, I kind of I don't know. I guess I kind of messed up a little bit because I thought when you retired as TV champion, that meant you could never be TV champion again. But obviously,
Nope.
White Boy disproved that theory.
Yeah, he's only not been champion for what, like 3 weeks.
Yes, yes.
Like,
He retired as champion. Then they did Jimmy Del Rey versus whomever. Del Rey won, retained the belt 1 week, lost the belt the next week, and here we go with this match.
August 28th, so he was not champion for less than a month.
Yes. All right, so after the after the match, after the bell rings, Ricky Morton hits the ring. He gets beaten down. Now Robert Gibson is still laid out in the ring, but he's slowly starting to recover. Scott Armstrong makes the save, and when the Heavenly Bodies were beating down Ricky Morton, they had a chair, and Scott Armstrong got it away, and he chased off the Heavenly Bodies and was just kind of standing up over Ricky Morton, who was laid out still. And that's what Robert Gibson wakes up to see is Scott Armstrong with a chair over the prone dead body of Ricky Morton. And of course, this leads to the confrontation. Scott pleads innocence, while Robert Gibson, it's kind of weird because Robert Gibson, he knows he got attacked by the Heavenly Bodies and cost him the match. So, like, why would he immediately jump to a conclusion that Scott Armstrong would randomly run out and attack his partner with a chair?
Well, Robert is not the thinker of the team.
He really, really isn't. Um, and to make it weirder, like the commentary to end the show, typically Bob and Dutch, it's live to tape. Because Bob lives in North Carolina and he's not going to come down to Knoxville to do post production with the commentary. I'm I could be wrong. I think this commentary was done in post production because Les was just I don't know. The audio tracks didn't seem to sync up as well, like the crowd noise and the announcer noise, and it just sounded weird. You know what I mean? And then the show just ended. There was no, oh, thank you for joining us. Tune in next week. Here's what we got. Like, he just stopped talking and the show ended.
Yeah, it did just end. Now I have to say during the match they had the funniest argument because like Dutch was saying, well, Robert's experience is in tag team competition, not singles. And then Les points out that well, the Dirty White Boy was a tag team wrestler for the first chunk of his career. And Dutch is like, well, that's different. Well then
And actually, for the first 6 months of Smoky Mountain, Robert Gibson was a single from February to August because that was when Ricky
and
Morton was still in WCW.
so this finish was weird because Cornette distracted the referee.
Hmm.
The bodies low bridged Robert out of the ring. So Robert tumbles, over the ropes to the floor. And then the bodies picked him up and put him back in the ring. And then the Dirty White Boy pinned him.
I mean, if wrestling is a shoot, if you're in the ring and you get low bridged and tumble over the top rope to the floor, that could, kick your ass. That could, lay you out.
I'm just gonna say I don't think that would have beat Ricky.
No, of course not. Ricky Morton is a much higher caliber professional wrestler.
Much more
Uh,
much more durable.
yes. And by the way, we got less than 2 years of Ricky Morton left on this show.
Well,
Uh,
that's unfortunate considering we've got
he literally goes from Fire on the Mountain 92 to Fire on the Mountain 95. Yeah.
we've
Although
got
I'll be honest, like, and well, obviously we haven't quite gotten there yet, but by 95, I really think we're going to be sick of the Rock and Roll Express. just
Let's just go
because.
through the.
Mhm.
It goes to like the end of '95, right? Or like
Yes,
November '95.
November
Yeah.
26, 1995.
So we
Um,
have we have 26 months left.
yes, but only 23 with Ricky Morton because there's
Wow.
yeah. Well, you know
That's
what
gonna
ha
be.
you know
Well,
what happened,
Howard.
right?
Yes, I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
There
remember who. It was Ricky's girlfriend and who?
Tracy Smothers' girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah, Ricky's girlfriend and Tracy Smothers' girlfriend got into
And
some kind of issue, and essentially, uh, since Ricky's girlfriend was the one that wouldn't chill about like pressing charges and shit, Ricky was the one that had to go. Was the way
yeah,
I heard Cornette tell it.
pretty much. And then um that was also around the same time Jimmy Del Rey gets fired from the WWF for scalping that woman. Um, well, him and Tatanka got fired, and then Tatanka got brought back briefly.
I can't believe Jimmy Del Rey of all people would do something so fucked up.
I can't believe Jimmy Del Rey would be a scumbag like that. Yeah. We still have a lot of Smoky Mountain to go. I mean, there's 113 episodes to go, so we still have more than half the series to go.
I
But
thought, I thought you
we,
were gonna say we still have a lot more scumbags to go.
I'm not gonna say that, but we still have the gangsters to come. That's gonna be,
Oh,
yeah.
what are you implying about our friend New Jack?
Isn't there a Smoky Mountain race riot at some point?
I don't doubt it.
Yeah. All right. So 87 down, 113 to go. And then before we go, we gotta talk about what else has happened in the world of wrestling because as I always say, I can tell you the date, I can tell you September 25th, 1993 until I'm blue in the face, but this gives you some context to let you know what else is happening in the world of wrestling. Now, Trey, last week we discussed WCW Fall Brawl, and I mentioned that it was one shitty show, and I believe you told me you just watched it recently.
I did. I did, in fact. That was a choice that I made in my life recently.
Now, I gotta tell you, because like we mentioned, there were a lot of green guys, but there were also a lot of very talented wrestlers who, admittedly, some of them had to work with these really green guys, but at the same time, you'd think you could at least have a passable match. Does the show still hold up as a worst show of all time, or is it a little bit more, digestible looking back?
Okay, my highest rated match on the show was Lord Steven Regal against Ricky Steamboat, and it was 2.5.
What did you give Flair Rude? Because that was the Observer's best match.
1.25. That
Yeah.
was oh,
Was that was that the
I think that might be like the worst like big Flair match.
was that the
The
was that
worst the worst 20 plus minute Flair match I've ever seen.
I was gonna say, was that the one they went in like 30 minutes?
Yes, they went 30 minutes and it was
Yeah.
it okay, I didn't realize until recently that Rude had like he didn't have the back injury yet, but he had hurt his neck or something,
Hmm.
and then he was so even. And when was that?
That
Was
was
that in like
towards
'92?
Yeah, that was the end in 92.
Okay, so
Um
that was the injury that he had to vacate the U.S. title over.
yeah, and I'm not entirely unconvinced that he was supposed to get the world title at Starrcade from Ron Simmons. And then that got changed because he had
Yeah,
the neck injury.
but yeah, I didn't realize that even before the back injury that Rude was just never the same again.
Yeah.
Because
Um,
I've been watching this '93 run, and the Rude stuff has been awful. And like he's not working with people that suck. He's working with fucking Ric Flair and Dustin Rhodes.
yeah. Because I mean, even though this is early Dustin Rhodes, he's still pretty damn good, especially when
Yeah,
you're in with the
Dustin
right
was
guy.
always good. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, there is a rematch coming up with Flair and Roode at Halloween Havoc, and I think Terry Taylor is the referee. Um, and the best thing I can say about that match is it's shorter.
Fuck is
Um,
Terry Taylor the? I mean, I guess I'll see.
I,
But
I don't
yeah,
I don't remember the reason. I just remember one of those around the time you started watching wrestling, WCW was putting out best of tapes, like the best of Starrcade, the best of Halloween Havoc, and I'm pretty sure that match was on best of Halloween Havoc. Instead of the Vader Cactus Jack Texas Death Match, which really was a match that should have been on a best of Halloween Havoc tape.
yeah.
Um,
So let's go through this fucking card real quick, okay? Lord Steven Regal beat Ricky Steamboat to win the World Television title. 2.5. Charlie Norris defeated Big Sky
th-
Star.
this is where we got the Murderers Row of matches.
Two Cold Scorpio and Marcus Alexander Bagwell defeated Paul Orndorff and the Equalizer.
See, that does not sound bad. You have
Two,
Scorpio,
two,
you have Orndorff, Bagwell, could always at least hold his own. And as we've mentioned, David Sullivan is a nice guy.
2.25, second best match on the show.
Okay. So you liked it more than Dave. I think Dave gave it 1 star.
Ice Train defeated Shanghai Pierce.
Or Midian. Or was that
That
Henry
was
Godwin?
Dennis Knight. Yeah, that was Dennis Knight.
Oh, okay.
In his corner was Tex Slassinger, who was Dennis Knight, aka Midian. Yeah, I'm sorry. I said Shanghai Pierce.
So
Shanghai Pierce is Henry Godwin, aka Mark Canterbury.
okay.
3/4 of a star, did I say?
Nope. So
Uh, the Nasty Boys defeated Arn Anderson and Paul Roma to win the WCW World Tag Team Championship.
that sounds like it
Star.
could be a good match.
It does. It does, doesn't it? It was not.
Yeah.
Star and 3/4.
It's funny because like
They.
it's obviously some of these matches, especially the main event that you'll get to, some of these matches really are shit shows. But you can see they did not, put a lot of they put some what should be good matches on this show. It just didn't work out.
Yeah, just for they went 24 minutes and it was just boring and not good, which but the Nasty Boys do have Missy Hyatt with them now, so that's
Oh,
cool.
oh, just wait. If you're planning on finishing the WCW run, Starrcade 93, the Nasty Boys versus Sting and Road Warrior Hawk goes 30 minutes.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh, I may just quit the whole thing right now.
And I think, and I'd have to go back and look, but I think that might either be the longest or second longest match in Starrcade history.
Cactus Jack beat Yoshi Kwan Star. That was only
3
4 minutes,
minutes.
so that was less than that was less offensive.
And
Ric Flair beat Rick Rude to win the quote World Heavyweight Championship. No other identifiers. Star and a quarter. And then War Games, Sting, Dustin Rhodes, Davey Boy Smith, and the Shockmaster beat Big Van Vader, Sid Vicious, and Harlem Heat, Kane and Cole. When the Shockmaster submitted Cole via a bear hug. So Booker
yes,
T submitted to lose the War Games. I had that as 2 stars.
you liked it twice as much as Dave because he had it as 1 star. Um, but
Hey,
I
hey,
just sorry, go ahead.
I will give them this. The match, they got everybody in the ring and went like 2 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's the key to a great War Games match. You go straight to the finish. Um,
yeah.
which they do not do in 2024, 2025. Um, by the way, the reason why I brought this up is because the Wrestling Observer newsletter, I mean, they still do the fan poll, the thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, thumbs down. Ball Brawl had 4 thumbs up, 26 in the middle, and 318 thumbs down. And I think you and I can both agree that the margin of error on this was 1.1%. which,
Yeah, it's just the War Games is like notoriously bad, but it's like it's not one of the worst things on the show.
yeah,
It's I don't know the Flair and Rude match. It's like the three matches that got time, like and should have been good. Regal and Steamboat, Nasty Boys and Anderson and Roma and Rude and Flair all just like didn't work for whatever reason.
I always get the impression that Cactus Jack versus Yoshi Kwan was supposed to be a little bit longer, like maybe 10 minutes, but WCW being WCW, they done fucked up because Yoshi Kwan's being booked as, this monster being brought in to take out Cactus Jack. And like a week before Fall Brawl, Johnny B. Bad beat him clean on TV.
Yeah, it's fun. That didn't happen on Saturday night, so I didn't see it. But I knew that because I learned that from Mick Foley's book in like 1999, and that's been burned into my brain for
Yep.
26 years.
So, what else is happening in wrestling in addition to the thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle poll? Razor Ramon wins the Intercontinental title, beating Rick Martel after the two of them were the final two in a battle royal on a live Raw, and they taped their match for the following week. If you recall last week, Matt Bourne got fired and Shawn Michaels quit and the Steiner brothers quit. Nothing new on Shawn Michaels, except the Steiner brothers, we're told, did not quit. That's the word. However, they're going to be taking October off from house shows, which might explain why they had to drop the belts. Um, and then,
Was
I'm sorry, go ahead.
was this like the whole deal when there's like Scott was suspended, but he wasn't suspended, or was that something else?
I think this is something else.
Okay.
And then um, one of those things that if you were reading The Observer in 1993, this may have been one of those stories that you skip, but buried somewhere around page 9 or 10, Dave plugs an upcoming pay-per-view coming up in November called the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And
Oh,
he mentions this because it's going to have two people who've done pro wrestling, Ken Shamrock and Gerard Gordeau.
okay.
Yes. So
Fun. Actually, I'm in September 1993 as well, and also coming up for me very soon, the first Pancrash show is in September, and you know who's on that show?
Ken Wayne
He
Shamrock.
of Ken Wayne Shamrock, but also he of the Mighty Penis, George Weingroff.
Really?
Yeah,
I
in a shoot fight.
I was unaware of this. I know that it was in Japan, obviously, so they weren't running towards athletic commissions or anything. But you know, I can't imagine a man who is deemed legally blind would be able to fight an MMA fight in 2025.
You know, you're probably right about that. That was I don't know. That would be a I'm gonna bring that hypothetical up in a group of my blind friends sometime and see what they think about it.
I hope you text it to them, see what they answer.
You know, I text blind people literally every day.
I know your wife.
Yeah.
You should ask her. Bring her on the show and ask her. Bring her on the show just so we can ask her if she thinks that someone who's deemed legally blind would be able to get to fight in the UFC in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, they let Matt Hamill fight and he was deaf, but I guess
Yeah.
that's
You,
different.
you don't really need to be able to hear to, be in a fight. But so obviously, you may be surprised to hear this, but we're a pro wrestling podcast.
Are we
Not
now?
Yeah, I know. We're not an MMA one. But did you see Bellator is going out of business?
Really?
Yep.
No. When did
That
that happen?
the it got the news broke that it's gonna get shut down either yesterday or the day before, but there hasn't been an official announcement. And I guess it's one of those things. It's been kind of obvious because like Spike TV or Paramount Network now, they bought Bellator. They're still technically the owners, and then they stopped airing the shows on their network. I forgot what even channel they're even
Uh,
on these days, but like no one talks about them. They they have fewer shows than what you call it, that fucking shit, that company that Access TV that Anthem bought, the women's MMA Invicta. They have fewer shows than Invicta, and Invicta never gets talked about either.
yeah, I know. I knew at one point a few years ago I don't know, I thought they were on the rise. They were spending a lot of money on talent, but I guess it didn't translate to business.
I remember like there for a while, and I forget who was booking at the time. I think the guy that used to do Elite XC, he uh he was putting together some wacky one-off fights because that's when they did the Kimbo Slice Dada 5000 fight. And then I remember
Yeah.
I commented I was surprised both of them didn't die during the match, and then they both died like pretty soon after. So I'm like, I
Uh,
or at
well,
least Kimbo died. I don't know if Dada 5000 died, but I mean, like
I
that even matters. Like the
don't
guy,
remember.
well, I mean, it matters if he's dead or not, but I mean, I don't think he ever fought again.
So
Uh,
that's like there's no other MMA promotion than UFC anymore, is there? That's
um, not, I forget what it's called, but that other like what's that other one that's on ESPN? They do the $1 million tournament every year in each division.
World
Like
Series of Fighting. Is it?
or maybe the Pro Fighters League or something.
Yeah, Profile. Yeah, PFL.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
I was gonna say World Series of Fighting, but I don't think that's a thing anymore either. By the way,
I've
Dada 5000 is alive in case anybody
oh,
cares.
well, surely he's listening to the podcast. Hi,
Hi, Dada
glad to hear
5000.
glad to hear you're alive.
Yes. Um, oh, I guess World Series of Fighting is is the Pro Fighters League. I think like it may I think it may have used to be the World Series of Fighting and then it became the Pro Fighters League.
Yeah, sure.
Hmm. But was it Bellator that Herschel Walker fought for?
Strikeforce. No
Okay.
Strikeforce.
Well, it's hard. All these fucking companies kind of run together after a while.
Yeah, I do remember because I used to watch Strikeforce. That was the
Yeah.
period that I was into MMA.
I watched Elite XC, the couple shows they were on CBS, and I remember I wanted to watch Gina Carano versus Mrs. Cyborg, and then Elite XC ended due to them paying off Seth Petrozelli to stand with Kimbo Slice, and then Seth getting drunk and talking about it on the radio the next day. Um, and then so basically everybody got bought by Strikeforce essentially, and they had the Gina Carano Mrs. Cyborg fight.
I remember watching the Strikeforce show on CBS. It had three title matches on it, which are like three 5 round fights. And they had a win like I think the show was only supposed to be like an hour and a half. And I was in
Yep.
like an MSN messenger chat with a couple of like friends. And I was
Hmm.
like, well, what if like all three fights go 5 rounds? That's not gonna be enough time. And they were like, oh well, all three fights aren't gonna go 5 rounds. And then all three fights went 5 rounds. It
Yep.
was like
But
King Mo and Gegard Musashi for the middleweight title,
yep.
Gilbert Melendez and Shinya Aoki for the lightweight title, and then I think Jake Shields and Dan Henderson for the middleweight title. Yeah, all
And that
three went
and that
five
was the
rounds.
and that was the Nashville show, right? With the uh the Diaz brothers causing a giant brawl when Jason Miller that was like one of the biggest crockable ever too. Like Like Jason Miller comes to the cage to challenge for a future title fight, and the fucking Diaz brothers get into a giant fucking brawl that gets Strikeforce kicked off CBS.
The Diaz brothers behaving erratically.
I know, right? I can't believe it.
Can't imagine such a thing.
I can't believe we've managed to talk about MMA now for like 3 minutes.
I
Um,
went, I did go through a phase from about, okay, I don't remember if this is the exact timeline, but the way that I remember it and the best way to kind of bookend my MMA fandom was probably the 2 years or whatever. If you start with the first Anderson Silva Chael Sonnen fight and end with the second Anderson Silva Chael Sonnen fight, the period between that was the height of my MMA fandom.
um, I it was probably around that because I watched every Brock Lesnar fight. I watched every Ronda Rousey fight. Um, I watched both CM Punk fights, and I went to the UFC on FS1 the show that they aired the day FS1 launched, because that was in
Oh,
Boston, and Chael Sonnen fought in the main event. And not only did he win, he didn't fail a drug test afterwards.
wow.
I know, right? And to the best of my knowledge, Massachusetts does have a state athletic commission, so it's, you know, not something that he could have just gotten away with. And I do remember the second Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva fight because that was when Chael went for the spinning back fist and got himself loopy, and then got the running inner thigh by Anderson Silva that CM Punk and Daniel Bryan then did the exact same spot on Raw on Monday.
Yeah,
Oh,
the thing that I watched every Anderson Silva fight, wanted to see him get punched in his stupid cocky face and get knocked out,
yes.
and then I gave up. I gave up after the second Chael fight, and then
Then they took on
he
Weidman.
did the he
So
did the exactly that, stuck out his chin at Chris Weidman and got knocked out.
So it's been 10, 12 years. So I don't think Dana's going to come after me, but I did not pay for that fight. I watched an illegal stream of that fight while it was happening. And I watched it marked out for Chris Weidman knocking him the fuck out. And I swear to God this happened because that fight was Anderson Silva acted like a dick. He stuck his chin out and eventually got knocked the fuck out. I was still doing, well, I mean, I say still, I did it for like 10 years, and this was the beginning of it, but I was doing the NXT reports, and this was when NXT was just, it was developmental. No one fucking watched this show. Nobody gave a crap when I watched it or reviewed it, as long as I eventually did. And so I watched it after the UFC show with Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman. And I swear to God, because you can go back, I think it's on Peacock, you can go back and watch it now. There was a match with Mason Ryan versus Enzo Amore, and the whole match is Enzo Amore dancing around like an asshole and Mason Ryan knocking him the fuck out. And I'm like,
And that was a tape show.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, UFC stole their main event finish from mid card wrestling, mid card
Uh,
developmental wrestling. Oh
uh,
God. Yeah, that was great. But yeah,
good times.
poor CM Punk going 0-1-1 in the octagon, and not I don't think
So
anybody was
zero, 0, 1, and 1.
yes, because the guy that got fired for winning the second fight ended up failing a drug test.
Yeah, no. So technically, that because technically they distinguish between a draw and a no contest. So it's 0, 1, and 0 with one no contest.
Okay. I well, if Punk ever is sorry Punk, I love you, but if Punk's ever dumb enough to fight again, I hope they announce him correctly with his record.
Uh, technically, CM Punk is an Enochiist. Because
Uh
he's an MMA fighter and a pro wrestler.
yes, he would have definitely been booked to lose the IWGP title 3 days after the Mickey Gall fight.
Yeah.
Oh god, that like I guess I understand why he did why Inoki was pushing especially the people who lost their MMA fights, they would then immediately lose because hey, they're not really tough because they lost their MMA fight. But like that really fucking killed New Japan during the day of.
Yeah, and the other way too. Fucking Tadao Yasuda, a career mid carder, fucking wins an MMA fight against Jerome LeBanner and gets an IWGP title reign out of it.
I'm happy you pronounced his name because I've seen that name a dozen times when New Japan used to do the video with all the former champions, and I never knew how to pronounce that name.
Yeah, yeah. Tadao Yasuda, I think.
Yeah. Um, all right, so somehow we stretched this show out to almost 2 hours. I think it's about time to wrap things up.
Look, look, I can guarantee this is the only Smoky Mountain Wrestling show that mentions Tadao Yasuda.
That is almost a fucking guarantee. I, I'll say I can say without fear of being proven wrong that Tadao Yasuda will never be mentioned again on this show.
Imagine what a dream match it would be if Tadao Yasuda took on Tim Horner.
Oh my God, I was like I don't know what you're gonna say, but I hope you said Horner, and sure enough. Oh God. All right. So before we go, do you want to plug the Oh My God cast?
Yeah, the Oh My God cast at ohmygodcast.com. I just remembered I was traveling this morning, so I didn't do my social media post for the new episode. But yeah, as so today's Thursday on the show. So 2 days ago, a new Oh My God cast dropped covering the last two TVs of September 1993. So the last shows before NWA Blood Feast
Or Bloodfest?
or Bloodfest, either or both.
Yes.
It was a two-night show. Maybe one was Blood Feast and one was Bloodfest.
There you go. All right.
By
So
the
go check
way,
out.
I went to check cage match to see if Tim Horner and Tadao Yasuda had ever crossed paths. Now, unfortunately, they never had a singles match, but they did on December 7th, 1994, at the City Gymnasium in Fukui, Japan. The trio of Hiro Saito, Scott Norton, and Tim Horner defeated Riki Choshu, Tadao Yasuda, and Tatsumi Fujinami.
I think it's just more reprehensible that Tim Horner, even though I'm sure he did not pick up the pin here, Tim Horner defeated Tatsumi Fujinami in a match.
That is appalling.
Yes. It's like uh even though their tag team partners pinned each other, Super Crazy has a win over Randy Orton. All right. So that's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed the one time only Tadao Yasuda conversation. And we'll talk to you again in 7 days.
Bye.